YouTube. It's Coach CB back with a vid. We got Coach O up in the building. It's gonna be good. I got a feeling. So let's get right into the business. All right, let's get right into it. It's your man CB, Coach CB, back with another video. YouTube. On this channel, we are all about encouraging athletes to look at sports. It's not as just fun. It's not as just exercise, but to also look at it as a pathway. A pathway to self-discovery, to learn more about yourself, to grow as a person, and to learn skills that are going to help you succeed in life. So we got a special video for y'all today. We got another interview with this amazing coach. Coach O. Little background. Like literally the first week I walked into Webster University, I saw this man's impact on his team and how they all loved him and how they all would put in work for him every day. And I just thought that was a special thing to see. And so I'm honored to have the opportunity to interview him today. You can go and say hi if you want.
What's up, man? How are you? I appreciate this.
All right. Me too. I appreciate it a lot. So you called me on a good time because the last interview it was my first time, so it wasn't as perfect as it could be with the time and all that good stuff. So you got me on a good day today. So the first question,
all we do is our best, right?
There you go. Practice makes perfect. All right. So the first question I got for you today is, what is one piece of advice you would give to your old self when you first started coaching?
Something that I've really kind of thought about, just over this. I mean, I've been here. This will be year 14 for me. Did a couple of years before that somewhere else. Like the education part of this is such a big thing. Learning your craft and learning about relationships, right? I think when I first started, I was like, oh man, I'm going to be like Dean Smith or Roy Williams, and it's just going to happen. And I think along the way, you start realizing the details of coaching that, I feel like coaching's 10%. I feel like the relationship building, the communication, all those things that maybe I took for granted as a player or didn't really understand, or maybe I wasn't exposed to it as much. It's more of the other things than really the actual coaching part of it, right? I mean, I think a lot of people know their sport or their game or this or that, and you can get better at it. But I think it's just kind of like, I wish I maybe would have invested more in those things of doing like educational tools on relationship building or how to approach people better or whatnot. And it's just something you kind of learn over time. But you also got to understand, I was 23 years old and became a head coach, so you kind of learned on the fly. So I think where we are now, we're still learning. But I think that's what I would kind of tell myself is learn on the other things, not just the basketball part of it.
Okay. I like that. I never heard anybody really talk about that part. When you ask people, what do they think about coaching, they never really talk about like the relationship building. And that's definitely important, because if you want your team to play for you, you got to build a relationship. You got to know your team. So I definitely think that's important. All right. So number 2, I got my trusty notepad for these questions. What have you learned about yourself throughout your years of coaching? Like, do you feel like you grew as a person over these years?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think as a coach, right? I mean, and no matter what the perspective is that a student athlete has for you, you're always looking in the mirror and saying, did I do that right? Was that the right decision? Am I handling this right? So I think self-assessment is something that for me has been pretty big. I mean, you want to involve. If I'm the same coach as I was 14 years ago, well, I'm not doing a service to our players, right? I mean, and so and to kind of go back to question 1 a little bit too is, every coach asks your player, hey, invest in the program, be about the program. Where I feel like it's 50-50. Like, I mean, a coach has to invest in you. Like, if I know what motivates you or how you like to be coached, I mean, I think that's a big part, because not every player can handle being, when I say called out, right, it's like hey man, that's your help side. Some people don't like that. You know, sometimes you got to sub them out and say, hey man, let's make sure we're getting the help side a little bit better, or this or that. So I think the investment in the student athlete itself, you know, I tell our players, I want to know if you're having a bad day. If you don't want to tell me the details of it, don't tell me the details. If you want to, hey, let me see how I can help you. But I think the investment in them is big, and that's something that I've learned, because that's how I am. I'm a people person, right? And you're going to realize real quick, I'm a talker. I like to talk, and I think that that's part of this. Is the more communication and building that we can have, the better it is. And so, you know, I think one thing that I've learned is I can use some of the things that I feel like I'm good at in coaching. And we haven't even talked about X's and O's. It's just the nature of caring for people and wanting them to succeed. And this goes down to just a normal person. And when I say normal, not a non-student athlete at Webster or whatever, or somebody that did tennis and whatever it is. Like, if I can help in any way, that's how I am. So I think those are some of the things that I've learned. Is I've got some skills that I think apply really well to my craft and kind of how we build our program here.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely understand that. It kind of brought me to this idea of that parallel between, you know, coaching and teaching, because I'm in education program and I want to be a coach, and you definitely see those same values of just trying to help as many students as possible in both crafts. So I definitely understand your point there. All right, we got another one. Question 3. I've noticed a very a great deal of success with your program since I've been at Webster. I just noticed that the team is always, you know, always winning and always really fun to watch, always plays good defense. And you guys won the SLIAC champs last year, the SLIAC championship last year. I mean, that was just a great thing. Both teams won. So it's just, what has that experience been like for you to like have a team to be so successful? And, you know, what do you take from that?
Well, what I take from it is that we've got great student athletes and great assistant coaches, because I'm telling you, they make it, right? I mean, just because I have the title of head coach, you know, it's the grind that our players put in. It's the investment. It's the, you know, I tell them, I said, you put so much passion and dedication, sacrifice of time, sacrifice of your body. You know, they make it. And our assistant coaches are, I mean, Coach Sadler's been with me 12 out of 14 years, and Coach Cole's in year 2. And I mean, even the assistants before that have done great. So, you know, I mean, it's something where 14 years ago, we built the foundation, and our players each year create and maintain the culture, right? I mean, and I think that's what it is. You know, the message is always consistent from us. You know, we're big in be all in, 2 feet in. But you have to live it, right? I mean, and our players just kind of take it to another level. And you know, I think the way you recruit players is you're recruiting great character people. You're recruiting people that have that same mentality, that want to be part of a team, a group, a family. And so, you know, looking at the success that we had last year, it was great. I mean, for me as a coach, you know, this is a group that we had. So, you know, I always got to say this. So 2 years ago, right, we graduated 10 seniors, right? Huge class, went to the national tournament, great year. And then we had 98% of our playing group graduate. So, you know, the expectation's super low for us. You know, we bring a big talented recruiting class in. We get a transfer. We got Jason Morgan, Darian Key back. And so, you know, that group, after going 20-7, we went the year before, 20-8, you know, we go 17-9. You know, we're the 4th seed in the conference tournament, you know, come back 21 points down at halftime. So there was things like through that year where, you know, you almost want to say you over succeeded, or, you know, you overachieved. But I felt with that group, we underachieved. And then coming into this year, those games that we lost, we won. You know, then all of a sudden those games we were down, you know, instead of like making the comeback and losing, we made the comeback and we were successful. So I was more proud of just the progression that our team made individually as a group in those games. And I think that's what led us to the success, right? I mean, you know, we've got talented people, but I think the progression and the experience and confidence that they instilled in themselves was huge from one year to the next, and that's a big jump, and that's what you want in coaching. You want to see progression, and it just led us to win the championship, which was a great day, especially when the guys won it the same day. So.
Okay, yeah, that brings me. We had a similar, conversation when I interviewed Coach Drew from McKinley, and we talked about like that idea of the seniors leaving, or that every single team is going to be different the next year.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you kind of get that? How do you keep the culture, similar or the same, with a whole new group of players? How do you get them all to buy into that culture?
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough thing to do. I think it comes down to a couple things. What's your message? What message are you leaving as a coach, as a leader, or whatnot? I mean, I think it's got to be consistent. I think when you have players in the program that saw it before and be successful, I think that buy-in is a big thing. I think the way we invest in our players is part of it. But it's just tough. It's consistently, and I tell our players this every year. I said, listen, this is your team. So next year, our team's going to look different. Graduation, whatever it is, it's always going to look different. So you have to embrace the group that you have right now. You got to make the best of it. You got to buy in. You got to, your chemistry off the court has to be as good as it is off the court. And again, we always tell them, like, you don't have to be best friends off the court. Now, when you are, it helps. But I just think that the message that we send, and then it's the characters that we have, they do such a great job of kind of taking their own to our program. Like, hey, here's kind of like some expectations, here's some rules, here's what we want. And then they kind of say, hey, let's just elevate those. So, I mean, it's really our players, man. I give so much credit to our players and what they do, not just on the court, but behind the scenes and whatnot, especially with our assistants. So, again, our culture is created from our great players that we got.
Okay, I like it. All right, so one more question. Um, so I already talked about like this channel, but like on this channel, I try to encourage the student athletes to look at sports a little bit differently, look at it a little bit deeper than just the sport. Try to learn from it, try to learn about yourself, and try to gain some really good skills. That's gonna help you succeed for the rest of your life. So like, do you have any comments on that philosophy, or any advice you want to give me, or coaches, or other coaches?
Well, I mean, I think the correlation with people in sport I think it is bigger than sport, right? I mean, I think the platform that players or coaches have can impact so many different people and communities. I think right now with COVID, if you think about this, like, life is different, right? They say the new normal, where, you almost need to have those days of just conditioning and being with the group for your mental health, right? And, a year or two ago, you're like, oh man, conditioning. Well, now you kind of look forward to it because you're around people. It's the mental health part is such a big thing that, especially of how you can't do a lot right now. You're limited to gatherings or whatnot. So I think that's a big part of that. I think your life lessons of, how organized are you? Are you showing up on time? All those relate to things in life from your employee. I tell our players this, like, listen, man, if you show up late today, we're going to run you. You show up late in life, you probably get fired, and I said, this is just kind of a building block for you to understand, like, you're going to have a daily grind, a daily job. And listen, I mean, you got to be all about it, and it's all those things that, and most people are like, oh man, it's not a big deal. But I said, it is, because now all of a sudden when you get a paycheck and you can't be accountable to it, right? Or, what effort are you putting into to your craft? If, and this is how we are, and every program is different, but if player A is playing their tail off, player B is only playing their tail off every other possession, we're going to play player A. But you think about this in the real world, right? Well, why did employee A get a raise when employee B didn't? Well, employee A is working harder and doing more and producing, and they're going to get promoted. It's the same thing, right? It's what you put into it. So there's a huge correlation with sport and life, and And I think right now it's even more just because of the mental health and COVID and different things like that. So, from a coaching standpoint, it's like, really utilize your time that you have with your players, of connecting, of making it the best you possibly can. So, as a team in your progression, and I always talk about teams on a journey. But at the same time, think about like that student athlete or that person needs it more than just the game. They need that being social. They need that interaction, So I think there's a lot of different layers to your question, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind about this.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely saw that on my journey with tennis, coming out as a guy that didn't really see myself playing any kind of college tennis. I just happened to be pretty good in high school, and um getting recruited, it's just been a whole different story because everybody started off as so much on a higher level than me,
Yeah.
and just that journey, and so my goal is to try not to get frustrated with the journey, but just to really live in that process, live in the middle of that process,
Yeah.
of learning and growing as a person, and trying to get as much from it as I can, while still pushing towards the results that I want.
Yeah, you got put in that sink or swim mentality, right? Now all of a sudden you're around people that are as good or better, and it's that sink or swim. It's like, what mentality? What's your approach? Like, oh man, they're better than me. That's it. Or, all right, man, I got to step my game up. And that's what competition brings. That's just what the team, that group environment has, and I think that's what I love about sports, man. It's that you get a dig look inside, like, what am I about, right? And I love that. I love when you see people step outside their box and say, listen, I can be better. And when you grow when you get better as an athlete, you get better as a person. You know what I mean? Because now all of a sudden you got to start utilizing your survivor mentality. What education tools can I use? What can I use? What motivation factors can I use? So I think it's great. So, and that's something I've seen here with you. I mean, you've just gotten better and better, and I mean, you're awesome as a person. And I mean, you got an okay jumper. It's okay, but no, it's good. It's good. So I've enjoyed all our time with you at Webster and everything too. So it's been a joy.
Yeah, thank you. So speaking of that, you brought up my last question because I lied and said this was my last question, but I do have one more question that I've been asking to the other interviews, and that is, who's gonna win me and you one-on-one basketball? Who's gonna win that game?
What are we playing to?
We're gonna go to. I'm a shooter, so we're gonna go to 12 twos and ones.
Oh, twos and ones?
Yes.
Oh man. I mean, probably 12-4, and I let you have a couple open shots. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, but again, right? Competition, right? I mean, it brings the best out of you. Like, I tell people all the time, like, I'm probably the most competitive person you'll ever meet. Like, I got a 12-year-old. I don't let her beat me in Uno or 2K. And when I'm playing 2K, I'm talking smack the whole time. So you get me in an environment like that, you get a different person. So, that's I'm just saying. But
Okay, yeah, I like it. You're talking the talk, but I don't know if you can walk the walk. I got a pretty good jumper. You might think I can't shoot, and it's like, oh, I got 8 points by the time you play some defense. We
and
gonna
listen,
see.
when I score the first one, you may not get the ball back. That's what I'm saying. I'm giving you the first two. So
Understood. All right. I just want to appreciate you so much for coming on the channel, for sharing your philosophy. Do you have any last piece of advice, any questions for me, anything you want to do before we call it?
I mean, listen, man, I think everybody has their own journey. I said, get educated, learn everything about the sport, and not just the craft, right? Not just the X and O's or the skills. It's how to, foster relationships. It's, I mean, be about the whole thing. Think about it. I always kind of put it this way. I had coaches I really, really liked, and I had some coaches that I just didn't really care for. And I try to pick and choose things that I really liked here. Or this is why, but here's why didn't I like this? What can I change about that? Because I don't ever think like there are, it always drives me nuts. And they're like, oh man, he plays favorites, she plays favorites. And I'm like, yeah, but your perspective is different because every coach, and I would say this is true about 95% of coaches, right? they want to win. They don't have any politics in it. They want to win. So you have to look at that part of reaching out to even those players that have that mentality. So, that's the big thing is the relationship of the game. You know what I mean? Even those players that feel that way, I still have conversation with them. Listen, and I always say, no matter what, if they're your best player or a player that's not seeing the floor as much, you got to have constant communication with them and telling them you need to do this, work on this, because if your best player gets complacent, your whole team gets complacent. If you get complacent as a coach, your whole team gets complacent. So, and I kind of mixed a little bit of the coaching and the off the court stuff, but I think relationship building is such a big thing, man. Invest in your players and know them, learn, let them have a voice, and I'm sure you will. But that's my biggest thing with coaching is really invest in them.
Okay. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. I'm speaking for I hope my entire community that we appreciate you coming on here, and we're gonna take your advice and we're gonna use it. So just thank you once again. That's all I got.
I appreciate you, man. This has been fun. Anytime you need something, let me know.
All right, thank you so much. You have a good one.